Thank you, Faye, and a very good afternoon to you wherever and however you're listening to TalkSport 2 on game day. Newcastle United need a lift, and it's fair to say that their supporters always do give them a lift here at St James's Park, no matter what they're going through lately. 3 defeats on the spin in all competitions, but just listen to that roar from all around us as the players break away from their handshakes. You hear the Mark Knopfler going home music coming through the PA system. This is a happy place to be. But now that they're out of the Champions League, Eddie Howe will hope that the injury situation clears up and that they can keep a weather eye on the top 4 situation and have something to say about that in the second half of the season. They start the day in 7th. They can leapfrog Manchester United if they get a draw or a win here, but a win will be preferable given Tottenham's win against Nottingham Forest live on TalkSport last night. But they're up against goal-hungry Fulham. 16 goals in their last 4 games after 15 in their previous 15. That's not bad going for Marco Silva and co. Can they exploit what many perceive to be a somewhat tired Newcastle United needing reinforcements come the January window? 2 changes for Newcastle. The injury problems not helped by a continuing suspension to Sandro Tonali in midfield and a suspension to Kieran Trippier for yellow card accumulation. He misses out, but Dan Burn is back fit, comes into the back 4, and Sean Longstaff also returns to the centre of midfield. Lewis Miley, the other player that drops out along with Trippier. So it's Martin Dubravka in goal for the Magpies. Tino Livramento, Jamal Lascelles, Fabian Schär and Dan Burn across the back. Sean Longstaff, Bruno Guimaraes and Joe Linton in midfield. Miggy Almiron, Callum Wilson and Anthony Gordon in attack. For Fulham, after their 5-0 thumping of West Ham, they have to make 2 changes. Well, one of them's enforced because Calvin Bassey is out with illness. Issa Diop comes into the back for him, and Harry Wilson is preferred to Willian further forward. So here's the Fulham lineup for you. Bernd Leno in goal. In front of him, Timothy Castagna, Tosin, Issa Diop and Anthony Robinson in the back 4. Then Joao Palhinha and Tom Cairney holding in midfield. Alex Iwobi, Andreas Pereira and Harry Wilson in behind Raul Jimenez. The benches: Karius, Gillespie, Dummett, Botman, Ritchie, Kraft, Hall, Murphy and Riley for Newcastle. Fulham's bench: Rodak, Tete, Reed, Toure, De Cordova-Reid, Rodrigo, Willian, Lukic and Vinicius. I'll keep you updated with all the goals going in elsewhere around the country as we are ready for the off, and another huge roar goes up around St James's Park to send shivers down the spines of all except for Mac and Mickey Graves. That alongside me. How are you, Mickey?
I'm very well, Dan. Obviously got into the stadium safe and well, but this place is, look, I've been here on numerous occasions over the last couple of seasons since the takeover, and they've got it going, haven't they? There's no hiding place from it, and we're in for another cracker this afternoon.
Underway on TalkSport 2 on game day. Fulham in their change strip of all pink shirts, shorts and socks. They're not going to miss each other passing out on that field this afternoon. Attacking the Gallowgate in this first half. Newcastle in the traditional black and white stripes, and Joe Linton tries to win a ball on this near side. Felt he was clipped by Timothy Castagna on this near side, but it's been given as a throw to Fulham. We're sat just behind the dugouts, literally 3 or 4 rows back from the roof of the dugouts, where Jason Tindall and Eddie Howe are standing outside already. Not sure whether that contravenes Premier League rules that they're allowed to stand together. But no sign as yet of Marco Silva emerging from his bench just in front of us. The Gallagher end to our right and the Leazes end to our left, and high up in the Leazes end, those Fulham fans who've made the long journey up from London. Who do that on a Friday into a Saturday? I don't know. Answers on the postcard. Fabian Schär wins the ball on halfway for Newcastle United. Dan Burn back in the starting lineup this afternoon. The man born in Blythe. A Newcastle fan, delighted to be back, I'm sure, in the thick of things, although he's a little concerned he didn't want to be rushed back too soon from injury, but back he is all the same to help Newcastle out in their time of need. Joe Linton scored that magnificent goal against Milan in midweek, tries to thread the ball through for Callum Wilson, but it was intercepted wide by Callum Robinson, but he's given the ball straight away into the path of Bruno Guimaraes for Newcastle. Livramento starts to make a run down the far right hand side, but Guimaraes turns in field and works the ball back to Schär on the halfway line. Just to his right is Lascelles. Little triangular passes, and then it's fired out to Anthony Gordon on this near side, the left, but he's being shepherded well by Castagna back towards the halfway line. We've played nearly 2 minutes on TalkSport 2. Newcastle 0, Fulham 0. Livramento, far right-hand side, inside the Fulham half, almost at the midway point, finds Miggy Almiron. He gives it back to Livramento. It's pushed in field, but the attempted square ball is intercepted by Palhinha, but Newcastle win it back again. Almiron has got Longstaff on the overlap, right wing, tries to dig out across. It's too deep for anybody in the black and white striped shirt, and it's gone out of play for a Fulham goal kick to our left. 0-0 the score.
Well, I have to say, Dance, if there was any question marks about the energy levels of these Newcastle players, then we're yet to see it, albeit it's still early on in the game, but the way they've started the game on the front foot, absolutely fantastic. And it surprises me a little bit to see that Fulham have sat back and tried to soak up the pressure, because I thought they would have been in their faces with a high press and making it difficult for Newcastle. And just, again, Marco Silva, I'm sure he said to his players, let's test them out, let's see what their energy levels are like.
Well, they're pushing forward now, Fulham. Lovely crossfield ball from Harry Wilson to find Robinson, and now Alex Iwobi takes over down the left flank for the Cottagers, level with the Newcastle box, works it back in field to Palhinha, tried to drive, but he had the ball taken off his toe as he swung his right foot at it by Miggy Almiron. And Almiron now in possession. Lovely ball into the centre circle for Guimaraes. Wilson just trying to hold his run in the inside right position, not used, and it's rolled right instead to Tino Livramento for Newcastle United. 3 gone, 0-0 on TalkSport 2. Earlier today in the Old Farm derby finished 2-2 between Ipswich and Norwich. Issa Diop slides in to keep the ball away from Wilson, but Livramento, right wing for Newcastle, sends over the cross. Diop's there again to head clear this time for Fulham. Guimaraes, 25 yards out, goes over the challenge of Jimenez and wins Newcastle a free kick, probably within shooting range, just about 30 yards out to the right of centre. 0-0.
Yeah, I mean, again, superstar from the home side, some wonderful play. There's been a lot of talk of Joe Linton over the last few weeks and how good he's been playing. Well, his form's not changed. Lovely little flick between his heels to play that ball into, I think it was Callum Wilson, just to start off that move. But you can see the way they've set themselves up, Newcastle. There's no holding back, there's no let up. They're getting themselves into some really good positions. Longstaff could have done better with his cross, but this is a real test early on in this game for Fulham. Set themselves up from this free kick, which it looks like Shah, and I think Anthony Gordon's the other player who stood over the top of this one, Dance. But we're probably 25 yards out. Good opportunity for the home side to test the Fulham goalkeeper Leno.
Having a long conversation between the two of them, Shah and Gordon, but Gordon's now moved to the right of the ball. Fabian Schär will just touch it to the former Everton man, puts it into the box, and it's only just wide of the post from Fabian Schär. Decent effort. He just rolled the ball to Gordon, who stopped it, gave it back to the Swiss, and he curled the ball right footed round the wall, but it was just the wrong side of the post. Goal kick Fulham 0-0.
Yeah, very clever from Fabian Schär. We know he's got an absolute rocket of a right foot, and I was expecting him just to take a long run up and have a strike from the dead ball situation there, but very clever little touch to the side just to make a different angle. A very close side netting. Good start. 5
gone, 0-0, but here come Fulham with Iwobi, left hand side, fed by Andreas Pereira, gets to the left hand corner of the box. He's got support from Tom Kearney, gives it back to Iwobi. Robertson in support over on that far left hand side, but Iwobi tries to nutmeg Longstaff. It comes out to Anthony Robinson. The American crosses towards the edge of the area, and an overhead kick from Raul Jimenez from the edge of the D. It was easy enough for Dubravka to hold on to, but there's confidence of a man who scored 4 goals in next to no time. 0-0.
Well, it was a Trevor Sinclair-esque, wasn't it, Dance? A little bit closer, but just unexpected from Raul Jimenez when he was outside of the 18-yard box with his back to goal. Just expecting him to have a touch and maybe bring in one of his teammates, but audacious, absolutely fantastic, good effort.
0-0 the score, but I think I can hear Faye Carruthers from here at St James's Park as Luton take the lead at Bournemouth through the man playing up front, Elijah Adebayo. He scores the goal for the Hatters early on. Wrexham lead Colchester by a goal to 0 in League 2, Elliot Lee, and also Lincoln won up against Reading in League 1. And the leaders of the National League, Chesterfield, have won up at Hartlepool already through Armando Dobra. 0-0 at St James Park. 6 minutes gone on TalkSport 2. Fulham heading for the Gallagher end, trying to keep the ball and do win a throw on this near touchline. Andreas Pereira takes the ball out of Eddie Howe's hands just in front of us, and will leave the throw for the former Leicester City fullback Timothy Castagna. Pereira comes short. Wilson's there too. Lots of movement around the ball, which is good for Fulham. And a little touch from Jimenez finds Pereira on the right wing, slides it down the right side of the box. Wilson across the face of goal, and Livramento calmly tucks it out of harm's way. But that was a lovely throw-in and move from Fulham, and they exposed Newcastle down the left side of their defence.
Well, it's
0-0.
a huge let-off, Dance, isn't it, for Newcastle there. Excellent play from Fulham down this right-hand side, and Harry Wilson just takes a chance. He runs in behind, times his run perfectly with his weaker right foot. I have to say, it's an excellent ball towards the penalty spot. But where's your teammates? Are they on the same page as him? Because if you do actually get yourself there, it's just a simple tap-in.
I guess that's why Harry Wilson's been preferred by Marco Silva to Willian this afternoon in that front four for Fulham. Very strong run down the right-hand side of the box, and he was well found as well by Pereira. Newcastle trying to counter. Joe Linton giving chase down this near touchline, but can't keep the ball in play. It's out for a Fulham throw, but the crossfield pass is appreciated by the Newcastle faithful around us here on Tyneside. Crewe 1, Accrington 0 in League 2. Crewe starting the day in 5th despite back-to-back losses, and they lead through Aaron Rowe's goal at the Alexander Stadium. Throw to Fulham in their right-back position. 0-0 the score here with 8 minutes gone at St James Park on TalkSport 2. Byrne looking for Callum Wilson, left-hand corner of the box, goes over the hip of Tosin Adarabioyo and wins a free kick for Newcastle at that left-hand corner of the box. 0-0.
Yeah, good play from Callum Wilson. Just kind of wondering when he was going to get himself involved in the game, but that depends on the service that gets played into him. We know he likes to play in behind and use his pace, but on this occasion, nice little touch away from Tosin. And it's a tight angle, this one, isn't it? I wonder just whether they take a similar free kick where they do that little touch to the side. It looks more like Anthony Gordon, but I probably prefer a cross towards the back stick here when you look at the physicality that Newcastle have got. But again, it's another good opportunity after a well-worked move.
6 goals in the Premier League this season for Anthony Gordon. I would wager that he's going to have a go at goal here from pretty much the left-hand corner of the penalty area. There's now just a 2-man wall for Fulham. Alex Iwobi's come out of that wall to help bolster the defensive ranks at the far post should this be crossed by Anthony Gordon. So way to our left at the Lees' end. Gordon addresses the ball right-footed, does go low for goal. It's kept away by Kearney and flicked out to the left-hand side. Jimenez will keep it in play for Fulham down by the corner flag and lofts it up to halfway. Iwobi has the ball taken off him by Tino Livramento, who kept his feet well, the youngster, and guided it back to Dubravka.
Yeah,
0-0.
He did, and I think, you know, if it had ended up in a 1v1 situation, I think he can always rely on Livramento. He's got excellent pace, hasn't he? But it came from that free kick from Anthony Gordon, which he just got completely wrong.
Here's Almiron for Newcastle. Lobs the ball over the head of Robinson and buys himself some space on the right-hand side. Level with the Fulham penalty area. Plays it infield to Bruno Guimaraes, who tried to give it bad to Almiron, sliding it down the right-hand side of the box. But he had an amble in his boot there, Bruno Guimaraes, and it went straight out over the dead ball line for a goal kick to Fulham. Doncaster and Morecambe 1 in League 2. Eli King for the Shrimps, and Harrogate lead Notts County elsewhere in League 2. No one in 5 for Harrogate. And Notts have lost a bit of form lately, slipping down the table from the automatics. And it's George Thompson that's given Harrogate the lead at Wetherby Road. 0-0, bit further north and east from Harrogate here at Newcastle United, where it's Newcastle United 0, Fulham 0. Ian Dancer and Mickey Gray with you on TalkSport 2. First 10 minutes have gone. What have you made of it, Mickey Gray?
Really entertaining. An open game of football. Both sides certainly going for it. And we've seen some, I have to say, we've seen some great individual skill, haven't we? I mean, that little flick from Almiron over the top of Robinson, absolutely top class. And to get on the other end of it as well, you never want to be the defender, because you know it's going to get shown over and over through the whole of the week.
Here come Fulham down the right-hand side with Raul Jimenez into the box looking for Andreas Pereira. Holds the ball onto it, well, just runs outside the box to the byline, whips the ball in right-footed, but there was nobody there to put Martin Dubravka off, and he was able to clutch the ball gratefully to his chest. Martin Dubravka, who's a goalkeeper that in Nick Pope's absence doesn't appear to be completely trusted by the Geordie faithful. I remember his debut here against Manchester United when he was on loan from Sparta Prague, and I was here with Ray Houghton. He kept a clean sheet. Newcastle won the game. As Fabian Schär goes down, his hamstring's popped. His right hamstring has definitely gone more defensive and injury problems for Newcastle United. It's Fabian Schär who's gone down. Sven Botman is on the bench, but I think that could be the Swiss defender's race run already. We've only played 11 minutes here. Oh, how's your look?
Yeah, I mean, nobody around him, Dance. He was just breaking out from his own 18-yard box, wasn't he? And he loves to do that, but straight away you could see him start hopping and hanging on to his hamstring. So there's not, look, he's going to come off the field. You can't recover from that, absolutely not. And another injury to the list of Newcastle, which is just a nightmare, isn't it, for Eddie Howe and Fabian Schär as well, who's had a wonderful season so far. But yeah, I mean, they have got Botman on the bench, and it's probably, yeah, it's great to see him back. But Eddie Howe may be thinking, right, well, if I can get him 25, 30 minutes at the end of the game,
rather than 80.
Absolutely, yeah. So let's hope he's done a proper warm-up when he gets himself on there, Botman, and fits into this back line in Newcastle very quickly, like we know he can do.
Still getting some treatment, Schär, but surely he's going to be going off sooner rather than later. You're listening to Newcastle 0, Fulham 0 on TalkSport 2 with Now. Don't forget that with Now you can stream all the Sky Sports action, like Burnley versus Everton, live today for £11.99, no contract. Search Now Sports for all the details. Now, Fabian Schär is back on his feet. He's going to have to go off the field anyway because he's been treated, so he can't just continue playing. I'm not sure whether he's saying, I'm all right, but yeah, the physio saying no. He cannot continue. Hopefully it's not too serious a hamstring injury, and it's not a grade 1 tear or anything, Mickey, so he can find himself back. But rather than go with Sven Botman, instead Emil Kraft, the Swede, is being deployed at this point. So there you were. You were saying he wouldn't want to give Sven Botman 80 minutes, and indeed he doesn't, because he's elected to give Emil Kraft the opportunity. His fourth appearance in the Premier League this season, and the previous three have all come from the bench for the Swede. So he comes on. Byrne moves to centre half. Livramento plays at left back now, as he did against AC Milan. It's all change at the back apart from Lascelles. So Kraft at right back, Lascelles, Byrne and Livramento is now how it looks at the back for the Geordies.
Yeah, this is surprising to me, Dance. I mean, look, there's nothing they can do about it. Eddie Howe had to make that change, and understandably, I don't think it could have been Botman. As I mentioned before, it'd be great if they can get 20 minutes out of him at the end of the game and kind of bed him back into first team football, because he's been out for such a long time. But I'm not sure, can Kraft play centre half? I'm sure I've seen him play there in certain times in the Newcastle shirt before in the past. And could he have actually left Dan Byrne out here? This back four is certainly something that Eddie Howe's not worked on.
No.
And this could be into Fulham's favour, because they've looked really strong down this right hand side. I know Livramento's got a little bit more pace than Dan Byrne, but it's just that balance and that flow of how it's going to work. And they'll be hoping that they have a lot more possession, Newcastle, over the next 5 or 10 minutes, just so these players can settle into these new positions they're playing in.
Mickey Gray alongside me, Ian Danton, nearly 15 minutes gone, 0-0 Newcastle, Fulham, couple of goals in Greater Manchester. Bolton trail at home to Bristol Rovers in League One. First loss in 12 at Portsmouth on Monday night, live on TalkSport 2. And old stager John Marquis has put Bristol Rovers ahead. Meantime, Kraft getting involved for the first time this afternoon since coming on. Finds Joe Linton. Almiron, right-hand corner of the Fulham penalty area. Tricking onto his left and then his right. Kraft has it again. Works it back in field for Almiron. Thinks about a cross into the box. Does swing it deep to the far post. Livramento will bring it down to the dead ball line. Faced up by Castagnet. Rolls it back, but it's a poor pass, and it allows Jimenez to whack it out of play off Gordon for a throw-in. The other goal in Greater Manchester, well, there's two actually. Stockport 2-0 up on Sutton. That's top against bottom in League 2. Ryan Crosdale and Kyle Wotton have given Stockport a 2-goal lead. And in Scotland, Mickey Gray, Celtic 0, Hearts 1. Lawrence Shankland puts Hearts ahead. And Rangers don't play this weekend in the Scottish Premiership because they've got the League Cup final against Aberdeen tomorrow. Well, that'll be music to the ears of Philippe Clement after their brilliant night on Thursday, getting through in the Europa League at Betis.
Yeah, absolutely. And that gap at the top of the table as well is very close now, isn't it? And what a start to his managerial career at Rangers. So absolutely momentum with the blue half of Glasgow.
5 points clear Celtic at the start of the day over Rangers, having played one game more. Brendan Rodgers would ill like to be 5 points clear. 5 points clear. Haven't played 2 games more. Here come Newcastle at 0-0. Anthony Gordon down the left-hand side of the penalty area. Steps inside from tossing, works it back to Bruno Guimaraes at the edge of the area, but he got underneath the shot, and it's out for a goal kick. Raul Jimenez is lying face down in the turf inside the Newcastle half of the field. He's just turned onto his back now. I think he got caught in the face by a stray arm, and so it'll be a bit of treatment for the Mexican.
It was, Dance. I think it was a fair foul, or challenge, should I say, from Lascelles, and when that ball eventually fell to Joe Linton in the centre circle, it's a bit nasty, actually, isn't it? There is contact with his face there.
So kind of accidentally caught his jaw with the forearm, didn't he?
You can understand why Marco Silva, he went across to the fourth official and he wasn't happy, because Newcastle had a fantastic opportunity. When a ball fell to Joe Linton, he's played an excellent ball out to the left-hand side to Anthony Gordon. And Gordon, you don't know which way he's going to go, whether it's left or right, but he plays that ball towards the edge of the D on the 18-yard box to Guimaraes. But it's just got too much pace on it. Guimaraes, you can see, he just wants to side-foot it into the bottom corner if he can, but because it comes at him quickly, he's got to react quicker, doesn't get his head over the ball quick enough, and the ball just fires over the top of the bar. But, good opportunity for Newcastle.
0-0 here, 17 gone. Jimenez back on his feet, and he's going to get some treatment in a minute. In the Championship, Plymouth 0, Rotherham 1 at Home Park. No winning 9 for Rotherham. Of course, they've got a new manager now, Liam Richardson, formerly of Wigan, and Jamie Lindsay's given the Millers the lead at Home Park. It's 0-0 here. We've got more Championship action for you on Monday night, and I'm at St Andrews for Birmingham City against the leaders Leicester. Ipswich only got a 2-2 draw with Norwich at lunchtime, so the Foxes are still top of the pile going into Monday night. I wonder whether Jamie Vardy will travel to St Andrews with Rooney there. Whether there be any... You know what I'm thinking about.
What a game that's going to be, Dan. So you're looking forward to that one.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Mind you, I 1-0 win at Cardiff has helped, but I'll be strictly neutral on the night. Courtney Sweetman-Kirk will be alongside me. That's Monday Night Football on TalkSport 2 from the Championship. 8 p.m. kickoff. We'll be on air from 7 at St Andrews. Hope you can join us for that. Newcastle 0, Fulham 0. Back underway. Jimenez is back out there as well. Guimaraes in the centre of the Fulham half. Floats the ball out to the right-hand side for Almiron, who collects it beautifully. He's faced up by Anthony Robinson, just twisting and turning the Paraguayan. Nicks it infield. It might be picked up by Guimaraes, but he runs into Iwobi, trying to bring it clear for Fulham. It's a bit scrappy down that far side. And in fact, Iwobi's conceded a throw. He doesn't believe he has, but the assistant on that far side says it's a Newcastle ball. And then a late challenge by Jimenez on the far side of the field is going to mean a yellow card at least for the Mexican. What did you spot there, Mickey?
Well, the challenge, Dance, I have to say. I mean, he's still frustrated, isn't he? Well, Jimenez, but that's a nasty foul. This would not surprise me. Look, I need to see it again, but this would not surprise me if VAR have a look at this and overturn this yellow card for a red card. There's no intent to go for the ball whatsoever, and I think it's Crafty who's just came onto the field. I'm quite sure it's him on the ground.
Yes.
But Raul Jimenez is a very lucky boy from what I've seen in real play. I will have to see this again, but the ball just comes to Kraft. He gets it. Look, I think he gets away with a yellow card, I have to say. I've just seen it there. I thought there was studs involved in this, but there's not. He pulls his leg away.
Yeah.
But I just don't see any intent to try and win the ball whatsoever. He knows he's second best. He goes across to Kraft. He's still frustrated from being elbowed in the face from Jamal Lascelles. And there's a lot of malice in that challenge, I have to say. Very nasty.
It is a yellow card awarded by referee Sam Barrett, who is one of the younger officials, only 30, but they are checking at Stockley Park for an upgrade from the yellow to the red. And I'm not sure how often Sam Barrett's got involved with Stockley Park in his young Premier League
I think he turns
career.
this over. I think this is a red card. I really do. I just see the pace that Jimenez runs across to Kraft. Look, I just said he tries to pull his leg away.
He's been told to go to the monitor on the far side of the field now, Sam Barrett. Hands on hips. Directly opposite us is the referee review area. Players are not allowed to go within that referee review area, while Sam Barrett studies the footage to see whether he should upgrade the yellow card for Raul Jimenez from yellow to red. He's taken a long look at the screen over on the far side of the field, and I'm sure that the VAR back at Stockley Park, Michael Salisbury, is talking to him, and the assistant on that far side telling all the players who are trying to crowd around and take a look sneaky peek at the monitor themselves to disappear. He's having repeated looks at this footage of Jimenez spinning as he collides with Kraft. And he goes, it's reckless, it's definitely... Is he in control of the challenge? You could argue not. He's turned round, he comes over to Jimenez, he cancels the yellow and issues the red, and Raul Jimenez is off, and Fulham are down to 10 men as VAR upgrades the yellow to the red. Sam Barrett initially gave the yellow for the reckless challenge, but Jimenez can protest all he likes. He is red carded, and Fulham now have to play an awful long time with 10 men on Tyneside.
Well, it's the right decision in my eyes, Dance. I said I needed to have a look at it again to see what intent there was from Raul Jimenez. But it's just that moment, isn't it? He's frustrated still. He's had the elbow from Lascelles. He didn't get the foul. And the first opportunity he gets to be involved in the game again is when he goes over to the far right-hand side from where we're sat. And Kraft is always going to win the ball. He gets it away from Jimenez. As soon as you leave the ground and you see the pace, he actually makes contact with Kraft. I think the referee, Sam Barrett, he had to go and have a look at that monitor. And as soon as he did that, he was always going to be rescinded that yellow card. And absolutely, it's a red card all day long.
So Fulham down to 10 men at the midway point of the first half on TalkSport 2. We're back underway. Longstaff back on his feet, down the right-hand side. Can Newcastle exploit the man advantage straight away? Guimaraes whipping a ball in right-hand side, looking for Wilson. Out it goes from Diop, only as far as Gordon. Gordon lifts it to the right-hand corner of the box, looking for Almiron to take it on, but he just couldn't control it. And it goes out of play for a goal kick to Fulham, and it'll be all hands to the pump now for Fulham. They've lost their striker. I'm not sure whether that means necessarily, Mickey, that Marco Silva will make a change from the bench, or whether he'll just say, OK, we've lost our striker, so Wilson and Iwobi can carry the larger threat up front, but everybody else stays as they are.
Yeah, it certainly looks that way, Dance, doesn't it? As you just mentioned there before, Iwobi and Harry Wilson, they're the two that are staying more advanced for Fulham right now. But I think basically what the players have got to say to themselves now, look, if it wasn't hard before, it's going to be even harder now, so we've just got to be organised, make it difficult for Newcastle to break us down. But the quality that they've got from set pieces and the crosses they've put into the box so far, the home side, absolutely top class.
Manchester City 1, Crystal Palace 0. Jack Grealish opens the scoring for City at the Etihad. Port Vale 1, Wigan 0. Ethan Chislett. MK Dons lead Forest Green by a goal to 0. Stockport 3-0 upon Sutton. Now Ryan Croasdale with a second of the afternoon for him. And, sorry Mickey, Bristol City 1, Sunderland 0. Tommy Conway with a penalty at Ashton Gate. Sunderland looking for new management. Michael Beale heavily linked with the job at the Stadium of Light after Tony Mowbray's departure. So Newcastle 0, Fulham 0, but after Jimenez's strong challenge on Longstaff, he's off. Upgraded to a red card from a yellow by referee Sam Barrett. I'm not sure whether that's the first time that Sam Barrett, as this young referee of just 30 years of age, has actually got involved with VAR as directly as he has on this afternoon's game. 4-0 to Stockport County now against Sutton. Paddy Madden getting in on the act now at Edgeley Park. That's top against bottom, remember, in League 2. Ball's out of play for a Newcastle throw with 25 minutes gone. 0-0 the score. And Almiron plays the ball back to Dan Burn in the centre circle. So whilst Newcastle have had to reshuffle at the back through Fabian Schär's injury, that reshuffle back forward may not be as pressurised as much as Mickey Gray feared they might be. Now it's 11 against 10.
Yeah, completely right, Dance. I mean, they're not going to have as much pressure, are they? Because they're going to get themselves on the ball. I think the possession stats are going to be very high at the end of this game, but it's what you do with those stats. And from what we've seen over the last couple of minutes since Fulham went down to 10 men, it's a lot of possession, but can they finish it off? Who's going to get on the end of these great balls they're putting in to the Fulham area?
Livramento out to the left wing, just to our near side as Newcastle rather attacking the Leazes end. Why do I say Liverpool? Because they're playing Manchester United tomorrow, and of course Sam Matterface and Perry Gross will keep you bang up to date with all of tomorrow afternoon's Premier League goals in the Sunday session from 1:30 tomorrow afternoon. Taking you around the grounds, always a good listen with Sam and Perry, with all the other features they bring you on a Sunday afternoon. before Madgen parts with the phone in. Lovely flick round the corner. Ball's played into the box. Gordon couldn't control it. Comes out to Livramento at the edge of the D. Thought about taking it first time, but the touch that he took allowed Fulham just to get more in position. Ball's worked out to the left-hand corner and Joe Linton. Guimaraes just floats the ball in to the far post. Almiron puts it across the face of goal on the volley, but nobody can convert at the far post. But the flag's gone up against Almiron anyway. But this is the pattern of the game that we'll be bringing in, myself and Mickey Gray, for the rest of the game. It's circled the wagons for Fulham, and we've only played 27 minutes. It's 0-0.
Well, the pressure's just relentless for Newcastle, who should have had a better opportunity, I have to say. Super play down the right-hand side, but when that ball falls to Anthony Gordon, just tries to wrap his foot around it. It's a little bit behind him, so he has to take a touch, and then the opportunity goes, but eventually the ball falls out. It's coming towards Livramento in the corner of the 18-yard box. He's running onto it to get his strike away, and Guimaraes just comes across for some strange reason and pulls the ball away from his right foot. Eventually no opportunity came for Newcastle, but that possession, as I mentioned before, they're going to have heaps of it, Newcastle. It's what they do with it in that final third that's going to count.
Now here come Fulham on a rare foray forward. Harry Wilson, right wing, up against Livramento, who, remember, has switched from right back to left back in this first half because of the injury to Sheds. Work back to Bernd Leno. You're listening to Newcastle 0, Fulham 0 on TalkSport 2 with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Whatever the mission, home or away, Enterprise helps over 120,000 people every day. You're listening to TalkSport 2, Saturday afternoon, game day. Barnsley 1, Charlton 0 in League 1. Adam Phillips, Jordan Rhodes gives Blackpool the lead at Cambridge in the same division, 1-0 at the Abbey. And Oxford also in League 1, 1-0 up against Burton Albion, Ruben Rodriguez. 0-0 here as Newcastle have the ball inside their own half with their skipper Jamal Lascelles, who just trots up to halfway. Only when he gets to halfway does he get pressurised by Alex Iwobi, who is definitely playing the furthest forward of all those in Fulham pink this afternoon. Livramento, lovely running field, touch forward by Longstaff, looking for Almiron, but Anthony Robinson just put his foot through it and just hoofed it downfield for Fulham so they can get up and out a little bit further from their own 18-yard line. 0-0.
They're just trying to give themselves a breather. Fulham at the moment can't get hold of that ball. There's no outlet for them. It's changed a little bit now, Dan, isn't it? It's more of a 4-4-1, if you like.
Yes.
Harry Wilson kind of dropping in on this right-hand side, but the ball just keeps coming back every single time Fulham clear their lines. It's Newcastle who pick it up, and they want themselves to get on the front foot.
Well, you can hold out for a 0-0 draw with 10 men. I think it was Plymouth who did it the other night at QPR in the Championship, playing for over an hour with 10 men. But Newcastle swarming forward again. Cross to the far post, brought down by Gordon. Angles tight, hits it against the underside of the crossbar, and Fulham clear their lines. So close for Anthony Gordon. It hit the underside of the bar with Leno beaten, but it stays out 0-0.
Well, can they hang on? Big question for Fulham, isn't it? Great play from Anthony Gordon after a wonderful cross into the box. They're in again, Newcastle here.
Yeah, it's Gordon finding Almiron, right-hand side of the penalty area. Lays it off to Guimaraes, whips the ball in looking for Wilson, headed out by Tosin Adarabayo, and out comes Alex Iwobi to head it away from the onrushing Livramento and just prevent yet another Newcastle attack. Ball's back with Castagna. That's a very good ball infield to find Tom Kearney, and Kearney will stroke it out to the left-hand side for Anthony Robinson, just shy of the halfway line. He plays it over halfway down that left-hand side to Andreas Pereira, and Pereira with a little reverse ball as Iwobi makes a good run for him down the left-hand side of the box, takes Dan Burn out there with him, lays it off and played infield to Andreas Pereira once more. Pereira urged to shoot, goes for goal, and it was only a yard or two wide of Dubravka's right-hand post at the Gallagher. Does go out for a goal kick. 0-0 the score on TalkSport 2.
Well, he's frustrated, isn't he, Andreas Pereira? He's just having a word with the referee there, Sam Barrett, to say, look, it took a deflection. Where's our corner? But great move from Fulham. Started in this right-back position by Iwobi, who then got involved in the opposition's half yet again. And they're going to have to do that. I mean, you talk about energy levels before the game, didn't we? Newcastle, well, Fulham's after this game, they're going to be shot to pieces, aren't they? But full credit to them, still taking the game to Newcastle when they get the chance.
Yeah, they've both got EFL Cup games to play in midweek. Newcastle are away at Chelsea, that's live on TalkSport. Fulham away at Everton, Marco Silva's old club. They'll give him a warm welcome. I'm sure they will.
Yeah.
Tom Kearney, infield for Harry Wilson. Incidentally, Celtic 0, Hearts 2 in the Scottish Premiership. Stephen Kingsley with a second for Heart of Midlothian. Now here's Anthony Robinson as the American comes forward for Fulham. Tucks it back into midfield. Tom Kearney goes for goal. It was on target, but it was straight at Dubravka. He held it well. But Fulham are just trying pot shots from distance now. Then maybe that's the tactic. 0-0.
Well, they are dancing, and credit to them. They're playing some nice football, but this is a problem. As we speak now, back on the defensive side of things, need to get themselves into some good positions.
Oh, Livramento, lovely run down the left-hand side of the box, fed by Anthony Gordon. He gives it back to Gordon. Swings the right-footed ball in. Headed goalwards by Wilson. That's straight at Leno, and he held on to it well. End-to-end stuff at St James's Park. But Fulham, with 10 men since Raul Jimenez is sending off via VAR, have got it all to do on Tyneside. But it is still goalless, and that's what Marco Silva, at the very least, wanted to be when the whistle goes for half-time here at St James Park.
No, absolutely. Whether you've got 10 or 11 men, it's up to Newcastle now, the home side, to break Fulham down. Oh, they had a chance here.
Oh, Alex Iwobi suddenly breaks away into the area right-hand side, straight at Dubravka. He was being pressurised by Dan Burn, and suddenly Fulham won the ball high up the field, but Iwobi, who got the shot away, could only hit it straight into the arms of Dubravka. But Newcastle have given it away. Palhinha, down the inside left channel, has to spin away from a couple of challenges. Pereira is dispossessed by Almiron coming back to help out. And here come Newcastle piling forward. Joe Linton stretching those long legs as he moves forward up to the edge of the area. Toe pokes it to Anthony Gordon. Gordon lifts it to the far post beyond Wilson. Out of play for a goal kick. Well, the way Fulham are playing, I have to give them credit. You wouldn't necessarily know they're down to 10 men. Iwobi suddenly presented with the ball from absolutely nowhere as a Joe Linton back pass straight into the path of Iwobi. But as he got the shot away, Dan Burn did enough, maybe, Mickey Gray, to upset Alex Iwobi's motion and momentum.
Well, it's the reaction from Iwobi, which, full credit to him. He waited for a mistake from Newcastle. It came. He span in behind, and he used his pace to get into the 18-yard box. And you're right, if Dan Burn doesn't make that challenge, he's in 1v1. Gets his shot away with a bit of contact, I think, from Dan Burn's left foot. And it ends up being a very simple save for Dubravka in that Newcastle goal. But they've got to stay switched on the home side here. And if you can get complacent.
There's another potential injury for Newcastle, because after that strong run that I just mentioned in commentary from Joe Linton, he's now having his leg stretched, his right leg, I think. Is it right or his left? I can't see from here, but he's just being tested to make sure he's okay, the Brazilian. And I know we're in this part of the world. I wonder whether Eddie Howe feels he's had too many black cats run across his path in recent times.
Well, Dance, it just has to come down to burnout, doesn't it? I mean, Joe Linton's probably one of the most willing runners, isn't he, in every single game. He can't play at half tilt. He has to play at 100%, and at times your body just quits on you. And I think this is the occasion here. I mean, look, let's hope he's okay. I think he's going to come across to the side to get some fluids on board, but he must have felt something to go down like he did, and maybe another twinge in the hamstring. But they've got problems, Newcastle, haven't they? And I think they're going to have to wrap the rest of the players in cotton wool after this game.
He's just coming to this near touchline, right down beneath our commentary position, Joe Linton, just feeling his left-hand side, and he's not going to be able to continue. Wow. He's been taken off as a precaution, so 2 substitutions forced on Eddie Howe through injury with only 35 minutes on the clock. So Lewis Miley, the youngster of 17 years of age here at the academy since he was 7, so 10 years on the books effectively at Newcastle, born in County Durham, their youngest ever Premier League player, gets another opportunity that he may not have expected so soon in this game, having been benched from midweek. So Miley on, Joe Linton off, and that kind of plays into Marco Silva's hands a little bit, with Newcastle losing influential players twice in this first half, despite having a man advantage, Mickey Gray.
Yeah, well, 35 minutes into the game, 2 hamstring twinges, if that's what we saw with Fabian Schär, would it certainly look that way.
Livramento almost caught out with the ball over the top that tried to get Wilson away, but Newcastle do win it back. It's Longstaff on the halfway line. Bolton are down to 10 men as well. Ricardo Santos sent off. They're trailing at home to Bristol Rovers. Hull City lead Cardiff in the Championship. Aaron Connolly puts the Tigers ahead at the MKM. Doncaster and Morecambe 2. Michael Mellon, that's his 12th of the season, Mellon. Swindon 0, Barrow 1. Kean Spence puts the Cumbrians ahead at the County Ground. Plenty of goals around the country. Cambridge equalised against Blackpool 1-1. Elias Kachunga and Harrogate 2-0 up on Notts County. Abraham Ado. Plenty of goals around the country. And Bradford lead at Gillingham through Jamie Walker. Here's Bruno Guimaraes for Newcastle United at 0-0. Finding Miley. His first involvement is just to sweep the ball out to the right hand side for Kraft. Gives it back to Miley. Lovely pull back to the edge of the 6-yard box. Wilson trying to make angle for a shot, but there's plenty back in Fulham pink shirts to bring it away. And it's Kearney who goes down after a shoulder charge with Kraft that was seen as a perfectly legitimate shoulder charge by Sam Barrett, and rightly so.
Look at Marco Silva in front of us. He's absolutely fuming, isn't he? But you're right, I'm with you, Dance. I thought it was just a 50-50 challenge. Newcastle came out on top, and they need a bit of momentum. Over the last few minutes, they've been backs against the wall. They'll try and get themselves back in the game if they possibly can. Callum Wilson starting to grow into the match.
Now Gordon makes space down the right hand side, puts a crossover, headed out by Diop. They're really defending well. I can't think, other than a header from Wilson straight at him, of a save that Bernd Leno has had to make as yet in this game. Yeah. 37 gone, 0-0.
I'm with you there, Dance. They've got to do more in that final third, Newcastle. The Anthony Gordon one when he hit the crossbar, and Callum Wilson's header, which you'd think was easy, saved by Bernd Leno. It's not enough for Newcastle. 11 v 10, they have to make that extra man count.
Here's Livramento finding Almiron on the left hand side. Infield for Bruno Guimaraes. 2-0 to MK Dons against Forest Green in League 2. Jack Payne with the second at Stadium MK. Livramento left wing for Newcastle, level with the Fulham penalty area. Puts a right-footed ball to the far post just over the head of Wilson, and it goes behind for a goal kick. So it is currently Newcastle 0, Fulham 0. And for the latest odds, head to William Hill, the official betting partner of TalkSport 2's Premier League coverage, where right now you can get Newcastle to win 11-4 on, Fulham to win at 8-1, the draw priced at 3-1. That's all thanks to William Hill. Get epic value all season with William Hill. 18+. BeGambleAware.org. Coming up on TalkSport 2 straight after us, the third T20 International in Grenada between England and the West Indies. Remember, England, no more margin for error in the 5-game series. They're 2-0 down with 3 to play. And then once we're done in Grenada with the T20, we'll be off to Alexandra Palace. Chris Mason and Paul Nicholson will bring you commentary from what's left of tonight's action at the PDC World Darts on night 2. Highlight there, Gary Anderson, the Flying Scotsman and 2-time world champion, playing Simon Whitlock, who really struggled last night to get through his first round tie, but the Wizard of Oz is through, and Nico and Mace will guide you through on your home of darts on the radio, TalkSport 2. We've got darts all the way through to January the 3rd for the first sporting champion of the year to be crowned in North London. Now here's Bruno Guimaraes coming forward for Newcastle United at 0-0, but the crossfield ball just picks out Anthony Robinson, who can head it out of play. Sheffield Wednesday 0, QPR 1 in the Championship. Bambo Diaby with an own goal. QPR 4 unbeaten under Marty Cifuentes, and they lead at troubled Hillsborough. Guimaraes back to halfway, and Dan Byrne. Now Livramento just in front of our commentary position as we sit behind the dugouts here at St James Park, with the Gallagher to our right, the Leeses end to our left. The Newcastle are attacking in this first half with 5 minutes of normal time to go on TalkSport 2, plus whatever Sam Barrett adds on for stoppages, and there have been a couple of those. Now Livramento and Miley combined, but Miley's giving the ball away. Fulham have the ball inside their own half with Iwobi, just tricks his way into the centre circle. Good skill from Alex Iwobi, and he's got Tossin making a lung-busting run on his outside, slips him in. Tossin right hand side of the area, across the face, he got a deflected behind by Dan Byrne for a corner kick to Fulham. Heart in mouth moment for the Gallagher end there, as Tossin made a terrific run from the back for Fulham, but his cross was deflected behind for a Cottagers corner. 0-0.
What a fantastic move from Fulham. great skill and ability from Tunkerney in the middle of the field. 3 Newcastle players around him, and he somehow worked a little angle to play the ball into Iwobi, who then drove into the opposition's half, played the ball over to this right-hand side. Great run from Tosin. Lung buster, if you want to call it that, puts a great ball into the box, and yet again Dan Burn, for the second occasion, had to be in the right place at the right time to clear the lines for Newcastle.
But it's a corner at the Gallagher for Fulham at 0-0. Andreas Pereira going to take it. It's where it meets the main stand. He plays it short to the right-hand corner of the box, and Tom Kearney. Left-footed delivery to the far post, but that's a comfortable claim for Martin Dubravka, who just evades the defender. Tosin and bowls the ball out. It's actually been put out of play for a throw by Fulham. They've done well there to make sure that Newcastle didn't have the impetus to carry that attack forward for the short time. Now out to the right-hand side, Almiron for the Magpies. Infield to Bruno Guimaraes. Bit of space for him, 30 yards out. Finds Gordon at the edge of the area, dispossessed temporarily, but it comes back out to the left-hand side. Livramento with the first-time ball. Chance for a goal, and Longstaff hits it straight into the chest of Bernd Leno as he ran into the area. Took a touch to set himself, Longstaff, but by the time he was ready to shoot, Bernd Leno was right on top of him and made the save. 0-0.
Does he panic a little bit, Sean Longstaff, when he gets himself into the area? His first touch is fantastic to get away from his marker. Can he then take it round Bernd Leno? Does he just try and just play it round the little side of the goalkeeper here? I just wonder whether he could have had another little touch there, Dance, which would have given him a little bit more time. Yes, the angle would have been tighter. And then he can look at his teammates. They're actually checking for a penalty
a penalty, because Callum Wilson went down off the ball inside the area. I'm not sure whether Tosin was the closest player to him, but check is over and there's no thought of the penalty, so on we go. TalkSport Breakfast back Monday morning from 6 a.m. Jeff Stelling, of course, looks after breakfast every Monday and Tuesday now on TalkSport. Ali McCoist will be with him on Monday, looking back on a huge weekend of sport, including Liverpool, Manchester United tomorrow, and Ali's beloved Rangers taking on Aberdeen in the Scottish League Cup final tomorrow. That's 6 a.m. Monday morning. TalkSport Breakfast with Jeff Stelling and Ali McCoist, and a cast of thousands. Throw into Fulham as we tick round to 43.5 minutes gone on TalkSport. VAR got involved this afternoon to upgrade a yellow card from Raul Jimenez to a red for a reckless challenge on Sean Longstaff. As balls out of play for a throw. Was that a welcome VAR intervention for you, Mickey?
Absolutely, yeah, 100%, Dance. In the commentary in the game, I said I would like to see it again, and fortunate we've got these monitors in front of us, and having seen it a second time, just the pace and the intent of Jimenez going across to Kraft. There was intent there, and it was rightly turned over the yellow card to a red.
Fulham coming forward again with 10 men down the left-hand side. Robinson pushed the ball into the near post. Great defending back inside his own half by Jamal Lascelles, just to hook it away, because there were Fulham players running in on that cross from Robinson. But the Newcastle captain has to step in front this time of Andreas Pereira, as the home side mucking about with the ball around their own 18-yard box and got dispossessed again.
Well, Dan, I can't believe how many times Fulham have got in behind Newcastle with the 10 men.
It is bizarre, and they've given the ball up again, have Newcastle. Andreas Pereira has it once more for Fulham. Wilson inside the centre circle, spots Iwobi making a run down the left-hand side. We're moving into 8 minutes of added time at the end of the first half. Ball into the area from Iwobi's comfortably collected by the keeper. Preston 1, Watford 1. Vakun Bayo equalises for Watford at Deepdale. Newcastle coming forward with Wilson, who's fouled inside the centre circle. Free kick. Bolton 0, Bristol Rovers 2. The 10 men of Bolton go further behind. Anthony Evans for the Gas. Swansea 0, Middlesbrough 1 in the Championship. Sam Greenwood for Middlesbrough, who've been in a dreadful run just lately. 3 straight defeats for Michael Carrick. And Fleetwood 0, Peterborough 1 in League 1. Archie Collins for Peterborough. Fleetwood in a dreadful run of form themselves. 5 straight losses without scoring for the Cod Army. Here's Livramento for Newcastle United. We're in that first minute of 8 that have been added on by Sam Barrett at the end of this first half. Anthony Gordon rolls it back to Guimaraes. More pressure on the Fulham back line from Newcastle with this man advantage. Gordon goes down as Guimaraes sweeps the ball out to Emil Kraft, right hand corner of the area, thinks about a right footed cross, lays it back to Guimaraes, first time ball into the area, it's cleared away by Diop, hooked further clear by Iwobi, only as far as Lascelles. Everybody except for Dubravka in the defensive third of Fulham in stoppage time. Guimaraes slides it into Lewis Miley. Lovely flick out to the right. Kraft, first on cross on the run, headed over the bar by Gordon. Couldn't get over the top of the ball with the header, and it went way over the top for a Fulham goal kick. Marco Silva, hands in pockets down beneath us, will be hoping that his team can get to the break, keeping things goalless, so he can reorganise his 10 men for what will surely be a tough second half with Newcastle attacking the Gallowgate.
Well, Newcastle have certainly got to start coming up with different ideas, Dance, because at the moment they're scratching their head, they're getting themselves into a great position, whether it be on the right or the left hand side, but that ball into the box, they've only really got 2 players to aim for, because Fulham are just getting everybody behind the ball and they're defending absolutely fantastic, and credit to them, they're still taking the game to Newcastle and probably have had, or arguably have had, better opportunities.
Well, they've
than
had the best
team.
chance of the half. Iwobi played through without question. The best chance of the half, not taken. And here come Newcastle in the 3rd minute of added time. A minimum 8 were added on if you're just tuning into Game Day exclusive on TalkSport 2. Newcastle 0, Fulham 0. Fulham down to 10 men. More on that in a moment in case you weren't aware. Out to the right hand side it goes for Newcastle. Level with the edge of the area. It's Emil Kraft. Gives it back to Bruno Guimaraes up against Pereira. Slides it back for Kraft. Another first time cross on the run from the Swede looking for Callum Wilson. But the flag has gone up for a push by Callum Wilson. And a free kick is awarded to Fulham. Southampton lead Blackburn late in the first half. Samuel Edozie at St Mary's. Stevenage lead Exeter. Carl Piergiani for the Borough right on half time in League One. Plenty of goals going in late on. Port Vale have a second against Wigan. Ethan Chislett has his second of the afternoon, and Cambridge have turned it around against Blackpool. 2-1 they lead now at the Abbey. Ghassan Hadmi with a penalty, putting Cambridge 2-1 up. They were 1-0 down. Dan Byrne out on this near left hand side, under pressure from Iwobi, works the ball up to halfway, and there's a bit of afters between Callum Wilson and Tossin, both glaring at each other after they wrestle for possession on the halfway line.
Pick your fights.
Yeah, Tossin's about half a foot taller than Callum Wilson. There speaks Mickey Gray, a man of experience, taking on somewhat lanky wingers in his time,
exactly.
Perhaps. Out to the right hand side, Emil Kraft comes forward for Newcastle, finds Almiron down the right hand side of the box, looking to break the deadlock before the half time whistle. Half of the minimum stoppage time has elapsed. It's Almiron down the right hand side of the box again, lays it off to Guimaraes, right hand corner of the penalty area, steps in field, thought about a shot, gives it instead to Livramento, out to the left hand side of the box, and Longstaff. Livramento has made a dummy run. Longstaff might curl the ball goal, but it's blocked at source brilliantly by Harry Wilson. They really are throwing themselves into every challenge, Fulham. They shall not pass, they say. And this is the end of the first half, not the end of the second.
Absolutely, Dan. You just hope they can keep the energy levels up, Fulham, because they've been outstanding. Really have, to a man. Having to do a little bit extra as well, aren't they? An extra 5 or 10%, but I worry about Newcastle. You know, if Isak's not in the starting 11, I know they've got so many injuries, but where's the guile going to come from? Is it Guimaraes? Because Callum Wilson, he's been too static for me. One good opportunity when the ball goes out to wide areas. I think they've made bad decisions, Newcastle, and they've got to add to the count of opportunities on this Fulham goal, because at the minute I don't know where that chance is going to come from.
Dan Byrne might have a shot from 30 yards out. Instead he rolls it out to the left wing, and Anthony Gordon clips the ball to the far post, and Almiron volleys wildly into the air, and he was being pressurised by Andreas Pereira, who stayed down inside the box and is holding his face, and he will be requiring attention, Andreas Pereira, and Sam Barrett is bidding the Fulham officials to come on and attend to the Fulham number 18. He did well though, Andreas Pereira, to put Miggy Almiron off at the corner of the 6-yard box from that floaty cross into the area. And there'll be another break in play here on TalkSport 2 as Pereira decides he's going to get to his feet and not need treat, because he knows there's that 30-second ruling if any physio's allowed to come on and treat you. So he's thought, no, I'll hobble off instead and get back to my feet. Plymouth 1, Rotherham 1 in the Championship. Finn Azaz with a penalty right on half-time for Plymouth, and Portsmouth, the League One leaders, lead at Shrewsbury bang on half-time through Abu Kamara. Back underway on TalkSport 2. 51 minutes gone. 8 minutes were added on at the end of the first half. Newcastle 0, 10-man Fulham 0. Guimaraes for Newcastle United, right-hand corner of the penalty area. Forced away from the box by Kearney. Goes infield to Gordon, clips it out to the right wing. Kraft takes a touch, sends the ball into the area near post. It's missed by Almiron. Comes out to Livramento, goes for goal, and it's headed away by Harry Wilson. Still they're throwing themselves at everything Fulham to repel Newcastle United.
Brilliant, absolutely fantastic from Harry Wilson. Tracking back, doing the hard yards, helping out his fullback Castagna over on this right hand side. Just gets himself into a good position, makes himself tall and strong, clears his lines. As soon as the ball then comes back from Newcastle towards that 18-yard box, you can see every Fulham player, they're getting themselves into position, they're making it hard for Newcastle. Newcastle are having to go wide to the right or the left hand side, and if the service and the quality is not there, Fulham will say thank you very much, like they just have now.
Byrne gives the ball away. It's 2-on-2 for a moment here as Fulham come forward with Harry Wilson, but he runs into a Newcastle United sandwich and can't ride the challenges, so the ball's back inside the Fulham half, and there's a flag against Callum Wilson, who was again wrestling for possession with Tosin Adarabioyo. I think we need to keep an eye on that little one-on-one between those two as the second half progresses, because there's a bit of needle there between those two.
Just having a little hand up towards the referee there. And you're right, Dan, something to keep an eye on. As we're speaking, Harry Wilson, who just made that bursting run again down the right hand side after another mistake from a Newcastle player, he's just got himself back to his feet now. He tried to take on Dan Byrne, and it was Anthony Gordon came back to help out. That's where the sandwich was. But he had a pass on, I think it was a Wolby over on that left hand side. He should have played it a little bit quicker, tried to do it all on his own, and look, the more the minutes tick by, albeit I know we're still in the first half, but you've got to try and consume as much energy as you can, certainly because you're down to 10 men now.
Leno with a free kick for Fulham, up to the edge of the Newcastle box, but it's headed away by Lascelles. Pereira tries to chest it down, but Newcastle have it back. Longstaff brilliantly rides a challenge of João Pereira, who slid in, as he often does, João Pereira, with no quarter asked or given. But he didn't make contact with Longstaff. If he had, it would have been another yellow card for Pereira. Meantime, Newcastle come forward, but a heavy touch from Miley allows Kearney to win it back inside his own half for Fulham. Anthony Robinson brings it up to the halfway line, plays a 1-2 with Pereira, and he's away, sprinting down the left-hand side, gets his head up, Robinson. There's nobody in the box for Fulham at the moment, so Robinson just delays and then tries to go on the outside of Kraft. Kraft gets a foot in and craftily wins it back.
Very sharp dance, I like it. Then good play from Robinson down that left-hand side, who we know has got that turn of speed, but he just couldn't get that cross into the box. There was nobody there for him.
We played 9 minutes now of added time, more than the regulation 8 that was added on. Here's Anthony Gordon, surely the last action of this first half, wraps his right foot round a shot, but it's way over the bar. Fulham goal kick, and Sam Barrett blows the whistle for half time, and that is that. A very, very entertaining, high tempo first half. But Fulham will be delighted to go in goalless at the break here at St James's Park. After all the goals they've been scoring, it's about goals they're going to have to keep out here, because they're down to 10 men. Raul Jimenez sent off midway through the first half. It was initially given as a yellow card for a heavy, reckless challenge on Longstaff on the far side of the field, but young referee Sam Barrett was told to go to the VAR review area by Stockley Park, and having reviewed it himself, he decided to upgrade the yellow to red. Jimenez was off, but despite that, Newcastle have never really tested Bernd Leno in the first half. The best chance definitely went to Fulham when they were down to 10. Alex Iwobi in behind the Newcastle backline, but he hit his shot straight at Martin Dubravka. Half-time score at St James Park is Newcastle United 0, 10-man Fulham 0. Thank you, Faye. We're back underway with Newcastle in the black and white stripes, black shorts, white socks, attacking the Gallagher end to our right-hand side. We're sat immediately behind the dugouts here in the main stand at St James's Park. Newcastle then attacking the goal to our right. Fulham, in their change strip of all pink this afternoon, are kicking from right to left towards the Leazes end, and in the top tier of that Leazes end is that pocket of Fulham fans who've travelled up from West London this morning. I'll run you through the lineups in a minute, but no changes from half-time, at least, although there were 2 changes forced on Newcastle in the first period, and Fulham are a man light. Here's Kraft looking for Lewis Miley down the right-hand side of the box, and he's won a corner. He's forced Issa Diop to turn it behind, so it's Dubravka in goal for Newcastle. Livramento now at left back. Byrne, Lascelles and Kraft in the rest of the back four. We'll break off for a minute as the ball's sent too far by Almiron out for a goal kick. Longstaff, Guimaraes and Miley now in midfield. Joe Linton went off, as well as sharing that first half with a hamstring problem. Almiron, Callum Wilson and Gordon in attack. For Fulham, Leno in goal, Castagna, Tosin, Diop and Robinson, and then Wilson, Palhinha, Kearney, Iwobi and Pereira. No Jimenez, red carded after VAR upgraded his yellow to a red after referee Sam Barrett out in the middle was sent to the referee review area after the initial challenge from Jimenez on Longstaff. So he misses 3 games now, Raul Jimenez. I've had that confirmed to me down in the press room. We do some work in the press room at half times. It's not just about drinking tea and having very nice slices of cake provided for us by the Newcastle media team. But yes, Raul Jimenez will miss 3 games, including that Carabao Cup tie in midweek at Everton. Chelsea lead against Sheffield United through Cole Palmer at Stamford Bridge. Here is Almiron for Newcastle, sliding in Kraft down at the corner flag at the Gallagher end, right hand side near to us, but he can't get the better of Robinson. It is though a corner. Robinson got a toe in and it's gone out of play for that corner kick, which Almiron thought about taking quickly, but he's going to leave it instead for Anthony Gordon to take. 0-0.
Well, Newcastle are certainly targeting Fulham down their right hand side and Fulham's left hand side. Had no joy from it as of yet, but this is a good opportunity, and maybe this is what it's going to come down to, a set piece from the home side.
Gordon then with the right-footed out-swinging corner for Newcastle United into the near post. Headed up and out by Robinson. Wilson attempts to volley it further clear, and he tried to break clear, but Fulham have won a free kick as there was a heavy challenge by Almiron on Kearney, and that's been given us a free kick to the Cottagers. 0-0 the score. 3 minutes gone in the second half. I wonder we talked about what Eddie Howe might be saying to his players. I imagine Marco Silva's just said more of the same, boys, hasn't he, Mickey?
Well, it's more of the same, absolutely. And again, Harry Wilson, he's epitomised everything about Fulham this afternoon. I think he's been absolutely fantastic. Certainly was in that first half. Energy levels have been, absolutely top draw. But it's about opportunities and how few and far between they come for Fulham, Dance, because down to 10 men, there's going to be a point in the game where the work rate takes its toll, and they'll be hoping they give themselves something to hang on to before that actually happens.
Well, that's where 5 substitutes has become more and more useful to managers. Here's Iwobi down the right hand side for Fulham, level with the edge of the Newcastle penalty area, looking to take on Longstaff. He's managed to drive the cross in, but it's half cleared by Lascelles. Still comes back to Harry Wilson, who finds Iwobi right hand corner of the area. Kearney trying to get the ball onto that very strong left foot of his. Plays a couple of 1-2s. It's worked infield to Palhinha into the area, looking for Wilson to make the run, but well intercepted by Newcastle. There's very quick 1 and 2 touch passing from Fulham that nearly came off there. 0-0.
I think by the sense of the crowd in this stadium, Dance, you get a feel of how this game's going. Newcastle are not at the races. They're not at it today. And Fulham, when they do get that ball in the final third, they look really sharp. And Harry Wilson yet again makes a great run. Just needed the pass to be better from Palhinha.
Almiron cuts infield from the right-hand side for Newcastle. Took Robinson with him for a while. Still has it, Almiron. 30 yards out. Rolls it to his right. Bruno Guimaraes goes for goal straight at Leno. Dealt with it very, very nicely indeed. But Leno just patted it down and it stays 0-0. Mansfield lead at Crawley. Davis, Keeler Dunn is 12th of the season to put the Stags ahead at Crawley, and Watford are 2-1 up at Preston. Matthias Martins with an early second half goal for the Hornets at Deepdale. Plenty of goals going in around the country this afternoon. I'll keep you updated. And don't forget, once we're done here, we're off to Granada for the 3rd T20 International between England and the West Indies. It is 2-0 to the West Indies in the best of 5 series. Come on, England. Bournemouth equalise against Luton. 1-1 at the Vitality. Dominic Solanke gets the goal to make it 1-1 in the Premier League. And Callum Britton's been sent off for Blackburn Rovers, who are 1-0 down at Southampton. Second yellow card for him. He joins the two lemons make a strawberry file. A free kick to Fulham inside their own half. There was no two lemons making a strawberry here. It was a lemon that turned into a strawberry for Raul Jimenez. And Manchester City have doubled their lead against Crystal Palace. Rico Lewis up from the back to double City's lead. And Millwall lead Huddersfield. That's 20th against 21st in the Championship. Brooke Norton-Cuffy, who I saw on loan at Coventry last year, he's given Millwall the lead. Joe Edwards could do with that. No win or clean sheet in 5 for the London Lions. Newcastle 0, Fulham 0. Newcastle coming down the left-hand side with Tino Livramento, takes the ball with him, pulls it back from the byline. Callum Wilson with his back to goal, lays it off to Gordon. Oh, what a save! Bernd Leno plunged to his left and got a strong wrist on that to keep it out. Best chance of the game for Newcastle by far, but it stays goalless.
What an opportunity. Great play this time for Newcastle down that left-hand side. They work a little opening. I think Callum Wilson's going to try and pivot and maybe have that shot with his left foot, but he's clever. A little pull back to Anthony Gordon. In form, Anthony Gordon. Gets his shot away.
What a run from Lewis. Miley up to the edge of the area. Miley takes a shot and it's well held by Leno. Kind of straight at him, but he still had to move to his left to hold on to it, and he held on to it well. Two great chances for Newcastle inside a minute, but it stays 0-0.
Well, they're certainly going through the gears, Newcastle, over the last couple of minutes. Working openings, creating opportunities. Again, we talked about them being more clinical in that first half. Well, they're certainly starting to do that now, knowing the importance of getting this first win at St James's Park, because their form hasn't been great over the last couple of weeks, and they've got to keep that momentum going if they can.
Leeds 1, Coventry 0 in the Championship. The informed Crescencio Somerville makes it 10 goals for the season in the Championship as Leeds lead at Elland Road. And Barrow 2-0 up at Swindon Town. Sam Foley for the Cumbrians. St Johnstone 1, Hibs 0. Swansea equalise at home to Middlesbrough. Jamal Lowe makes it 1-1. Reading equalise at Lincoln. That's 1-1 Harvey Nibbs. And Mickey Gray, I think, was doing an imaginary yellow card then, weren't you, Mick?
Well, I mean, Anthony Robinson's done brilliant on this left-hand side, Dance. He gets away from Emil Kraft. And Emil Kraft just basically makes himself big and blocks the run of Robinson so he can't go overlap round him. It's a foul, of course it's a foul, but why is the referee, Sam Barrett, why is he not giving Fulham and Kraft a yellow card?
Ball's in the area for Fulham. Harry Wilson tries to get the shot away as he brought the ball down. He just caught Dan Burn. Instead he plays it along the 6-yard line, cleared away by Livramento this time. And now Newcastle try and break. Almiron sprinting towards the halfway line. Options ahead of him, looks for Gordon with a straight pass through the middle, but it was dealt with comfortably at the back by Fulham's defenders. And once again, Fulham suddenly found space inside the area, but the ball just wouldn't sit down for Harry Wilson. Newcastle play the ball into the area. Shot from Almiron, blocked behind for a corner by Issa Diop this time. Corner at the Gallowgate end for Newcastle, their second of the game. 0-0 the score.
It's incredible how open this game is from both sides. Fulham have been excellent on the front foot. Newcastle, as I mentioned, they're starting to go through the gears. When it falls to Almiron after a lovely pass, it's a tight angle. Callum Wilson's just waiting for the pullback to tap it into the back of the net. He did go across to him and say, look, give me the ball.
So a right-footed in-swinging corner actually is played short by Gordon. He gets it back from Almiron. Now he whips it in from further out, but that's a very comfortable claim for Bernd Leno. It just tells his players to calm down as he runs out to the edge of the area. Hull City 2, Cardiff 0. Scott Twine, I bet that was scored from about 25 yards out. He only scores goals from distance. And Nicholas Jackson has Chelsea 2-0 in front against Sheffield United at Stamford Bridge. Anthony Robinson wins a throw off Emil Kraft for Fulham as the 10 men come forward down the left-hand side. We've played 10 minutes of the second half, Mickey Gray. It's still 0-0 somehow.
It's ridiculous. I mean, the pace of Robinson down this left-hand side, superb. And again, it's a real battle, isn't it, with Kraft over in that right-back position. He got the better of him with his pace. Again, the ball comes in. And look how easy it is for the wayside to get the crosses into the box.
Iwobi lays it off to Palhinha, 30 yards out. It's worked back to Tosin. Tosin tosses it down the left-hand side of the box. Pereira couldn't collect it. He was onside. Great idea from Tosin. Lofted it into the left-hand corner of the area. And Pereira tried to control it on his right thigh, but it just came off his knee more than anything else and went behind for a Newcastle goal kick. 0-0.
He just tried a harder touch. Get your left foot out and just bring the ball down softly. Then you've got an opportunity to put the ball back into Newcastle's area. They're really struggling, Dance, defensively, Newcastle. They look as if they're all over the place, just hoping to get a goal in front, and then they give themselves something to hang on to in the game.
Livramento coming forward now for Newcastle at 0-0. Ball in field, looking for Guimaraes, right one, challenge still going into the area, runs out of room, it's picked up by Miley! Lewis Miley finally breaks the deadlock for Newcastle United with 10 minutes gone in the second half, and they run to the 17-year-old to celebrate with the young man. Their youngest ever Premier League player now has a Premier League goal to his name, slotting it home. But Bruno Guimaraes did all the hard work, but Lewis Miley gratefully accepted it when it dropped for him. Good calm finish. And finally the 10 men of Fulham are breached. Newcastle 1, Fulham 0.
Well, how well does Bruno Guimaraes do? He just jinxed by 2 or 3 players. He gets a little bit of good fortune with the ball played through to Lewis Miley, but his eyes must have just lit up as that ball just fell brilliant into his path. And I'm thinking to myself in my head, keep it low, keep it down. He gets enough pace on it, and it just fires past Bernd Leno into the back of that Fulham goal. But that's what they've been waiting for, the Geordie faithful, right in front of the Gallic end as well. From that young man, what a finish. Buzzing now, Newcastle are.
17 years young, his first goal, senior goal for Newcastle United, and it gives them a precious lead in a game where, as you've heard from Mickey Gray, they've looked a little nervous at the back despite the man advantage, and now they find themselves finally ahead. 1-0 to Newcastle, and we played 57 minutes on TalkSport 2. And now the atmosphere around this famous old stadium is a good deal happier, a good deal less irritated and nervous than it was when the whistle went for half-time. But Fulham will still provide a threat. As soon as I say that, the ball trickles under Anthony Robinson's boots and out of play for a Newcastle throw. 1-0 Newcastle.
Well, they still have to think they're in it, Dance, Fulham, because of the performance that they've put in so far. And they will get an opportunity. It's just whether they can keep it down to 1 at the moment, because all the momentum now is going to be with the home side. You can see the crowd getting involved after that goal. They'll be wanting to press forward and try and get that second goal, just to see out this game if they can, and get themselves back to winning ways and keep the pressure on at the top of the table if they can do. But it was all about Guimaraes, wasn't it? Brilliant play to skip away from 2 players. I mentioned, he had that little bit of good fortune when it fell into the path of Lewis Miley, but did everything right, kept it low, got pace on it, give Leno no chance.
So 1-0 to the Toon Army, and here's Livramento down the left-hand side of the area, plays a 1-2, goes for the byline, pulls it back, brought down by Almiron, trying to get the shot away, he's been faced up by Pereira, he's now got his back to goal, he finds it almost snaking through to Miley once again via Kraft, but Bernd Leno can pick it up. Crawley 1, Mansfield 3, George Maris with a third for Mansfield, Port Vale 2, Wigan 1. Wigan get one back at Vale Park. Jamil Matt puts Walsall ahead at home to Tranmere, and Hull are now 3-0 up against Cardiff City. Ofan Tuzan with a third goal against the side managed by his compatriot Eric Bullitt. 1-0 to Newcastle. Bit of space for Bruno Guimaraes just outside the area. Thought about a shot but fires the ball into the feet of Callum Wilson. Gives it back to Guimaraes, 20 yards out. Fulham readying a double change, but here's Almiron, large side of the left foot. I don't know why he didn't wrap his right foot round it. He's so left-footed. Miggy Almiron had the ball down the right-hand side of the box, tried to play a ball across the face of goal with the outside of his left foot, and he just toe-poked it over the bar. 1-0 to Newcastle, but the changes are being made, and Rodrigo Muniz is coming on for Fulham, and so too is Kenny Tete. And players going off. Timothy Castagne is going off on the far side of the field, and the other player going off, just looking to see who that is Andreas Pereira, making way for Kenny Tete. You're listening to Newcastle 1, Fulham 0 on TalkSport 2 with Now. Don't forget that with Now you can stream all the Sky Sports action like Burnley versus Everton, live today for £11.99. No contract. Search Now Sports. So a like-for-like switch at right back for Fulham, Mickey Gray, and Rodrigo Muniz on to provide a bit more of a target man, a front man, as Fulham look to try and get back into this game.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think Marco Silva obviously had to freshen things up, going a goal behind. Got to try and come up with some different answers if they possibly can. The players who've went off, I have to say, Castagna and Pereira did ever so well. They've worked their socks off, but down to 10 minutes, always difficult, and I think Marco Silva knew he had to make those changes, but positive changes, absolutely.
I have to tell you that players have been suspended at the Vitality. The players have been taken off because Tom Lockyer has collapsed. Remember, he collapsed at the start of the playoff final when Luton played Coventry back in May, and I have to unfortunately report that he's collapsed again, and so players have been taken off at the Vitality with a score at 1-1, and of course we immediately hope for the best for Tom Lockyer, who was back so quickly after that collapse at Wembley in the game against Coventry City. We hope he's okay. It may be a contact injury, but we'll try and get confirmation on that as we go throughout the afternoon. But play suspended for the moment at the Vitality with a score at 1-1 between Bournemouth and Luton Town. Here at St James Park, it's 1-0 to Newcastle against 10-man Fulham. Southampton have scored a second against Blackburn. Stuart Armstrong with the second for the Saints, starting the day in fourth. Plymouth have turned it around against Rotherham. A second for Finn Azaz makes it Plymouth 2, Rotherham 1 in the Championship. Leeds 1, Coventry 1. Coventry equalise at Ellen Road through their defender Bobby Thomas. So that's 1-1. And Cheltenham are 1-0 up despite being a man down there. The man sent off early in the piece, but Will Goodwin with a penalty makes it Cheltenham Town 1, Leyton Orient 0. And Notts County get one back at Harrogate. That's 2-1 now to Harrogate. Jody Jones for Notts County. You're up to date with all the goals going in around the country here on TalkSport 2. Off to Grenada in the West Indies at 5 here on TalkSport 2 for ball-by-ball exclusive commentary of the third T20 between England and the West Indies. And then once that's done, we'll be back to Alexandra Palace for day 2 of the PDC World Darts with Chris Mason and Paul Nicholson. As Newcastle come forward, looking for Callum Wilson, goes down, chance for Almiron to smack the ball into the back of the net. It's 2-0 to Newcastle. Callum Wilson couldn't get the shot away. He was denied the opportunity by defending from Fulham, but the ball just rolled into the path of Miggy Almiron, and with Bert Leno out of his ground, trying to stop the initial effort from Callum Wilson, he had the whole of the goal to aim at, and Miguel Almiron gleefully smashed the ball into the back of the net, and that may well be the points safe for Newcastle United against 10-man Fulham. It is Newcastle 2, Fulham 0.
Just as it stands now, Dance, the goal obviously is standing by. I just wonder whether this is going to go to VAR again. Callum, it's so close when he makes that second run. There's so much to talk about here, isn't it? Is he offside? Is it a penalty? Well, I have to say Sam Barrett has waved his arm to say carry on, and Almiron's finished it off brilliantly. I think they would have got a penalty if he hadn't put the ball in the back of the net. I do think this goal is going to stand, but it was very close from Callum Wilson. Just onside, but he stays strong. Eventually, when he does go to ground and that ball falls to Almiron, you're just thinking, right, get your laces through it, don't miss the target. He's done exactly that, and he has put the ball in the back of the net.
A third Premier League goal of the season, but they are checking for a possible offside that you mentioned, Mickey, back at Stockley Park through VAR. Must be that initial through ball for Callum Wilson before he was challenged in the box, and the ball squirmed clear for Almiron to roll it home. Oh, so they are and I love the way that the public address announcer says it with a very monotone, oh, just checking for offside. As that, here we go.
I think he looks off, Dance, I have to say.
Well, you get your protractor out and start drawing the lines for me, Mickey.
It's so close, it really is.
With you.
And it's a pressure call, isn't it, from Sam Barrett here, and it does stand. Wow.
Onside the call, and so it is a third Premier League goal of the season for Miggy Almiron. And Newcastle 2-0 up on 10-man Fulham. And now the Cottagers of London have it even more to do than they already did, and they've just given the ball up.
Oh, dear.
And Almiron overhit a pass through the middle intended for Anthony Gordon.
Was that a shot?
It almost was a shot, wasn't it? Because it bounced twice and through to Bernd Leno inside his penalty area. So 20 minutes gone in the second half. 2-0 to Newcastle United. What have Fulham got in response? Well, here's Iwobi looking for Kenny Tete on the right-hand side. Tete, right-hand corner of the box, plays a cross in. Kearney with a header. And it's a comfortable save for Martin Dubravka.
Well, it's difficult now for Fulham, isn't it? Second goal's gone in. You'd expect Newcastle to go on and win this game. But what do? You're down to 10 men on the away side. Do you just sit in and keep the score down as low as you possibly can? Because there's no doubt they've had some fantastic weeks of late, Fulham, but this is going to hurt them.
You're listening to Newcastle 2, Fulham 0 on TalkSport 2 with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Enterprise has vans of all shapes and sizes, so if you've got a plan, they've got a van. Lascelles at the edge of the centre circle for the home side. Plays the ball right to Kraft. Now Almiron, who scored Newcastle's second just a couple of moments ago. Plays it back to Lascelles on the halfway line. Byrne will clip the ball out to Livramento, who brings the ball in field with his first touch on his stronger right foot, but he's looked quite adept at left full back once again in an emergency position for Newcastle. Here's Almiron down the right hand side of the box. Miley plays it across to the edge of the area. It's a smashing pullback, but he only found Harry Wilson, and then Iwobi fouls Emil Kraft and presents Newcastle with a free kick 35 yards out to the right of centre. 2-0 to the home side.
Tired legs, tired brains, you start making mistakes, and that's what's happening to these Fulham players now. They're rushing into challenges, quick free kick taken here, but I think it's going to get pulled back. But
yeah, the referee's not ready.
Yeah, it's so difficult. And when you go down to 10 men any game, whether there's 5 or 10 minutes left or whether there's 60 minutes left, you start to feel it in a game, and you're thinking to yourself, right, where do I need to be in certain situations? And they did it so well in the first half, but it's just caught up with the away side. And unfortunately, 2 big opportunities for Newcastle that they've had in the second half, they've capitalised on it.
So a free kick for Newcastle. Stockport 6, Sutton United 0. Joe Cottrell with the 6 for the Hatters, and Barrow 3-0 up at Swindon through James Chester. Free kick for Newcastle, rolled into the centre of the Fulham half for Livramento. He plays it out to the left hand side, and Anthony Gordon, good cross with his left to the far post, brought down by Wilson. He might have been better to leave it. It's brought down by Emil Kraft, who had a go for goal from the edge of the area but lifted it over the crossbar. That would have been a collector's item for the Swedish fullback, but he just couldn't keep the shot down. 2-0 to Newcastle, goal kick Fulham.
Well, it is. I mean, it's a decent striking, is it? He gets everything behind it there, Kraft, but as that ball comes in before it gets the shot away, I'm just wondering, a more experienced player in Lewis Miley, let's say he was 4 or 5 years old, I think he should have been shouting at Callum Wilson to say, leave it, it's my ball. He was in much better position.
Yeah.
Callum Wilson just stretched out his right foot. He had no reason to go for it whatsoever, just needed that little word in his ear.
Foul by Iwobi on Guimaraes this time, and in fact Palini is the man that committed the offence as well, another sandwich of players, but it's been given as a yellow card to Palini. He likes a yellow card, I mentioned it before.
He's certainly got a few, hasn't he?
Yeah. Newport 1, Grimsby 0. Omar Bogle for the Exiles. Bradford lead 2-0 at Gillingham. Andy Cook. Vacuum Bayo gets a 4th for Watford at Preston. That's now Preston 1, Watford 4. And Charlton equalise at Barnsley. Corey Blackett-Taylor with his 7th of the season. That's 1-1 at Oakwell. So a free kick for Newcastle again to the right of centre, getting towards the right-hand corner of the Fulham penalty area as we look towards the Gallagher end. Guimaraes standing over it. Almiron standing out on the right wing to his right if he wants to roll it short. But Guimaraes will send it into the area. Good whip on the cross. Dan Burn goes up for a header. It might drop for Longstaff. Can't bring it down. They just can't get it clear, Fulham. It's bouncing around the 6-yard line. It's pinball. But eventually Alex Iwobi, you could probably hear the thump as he connected with his right foot to get it out of harm's way. And then Rodrigo collides with Livramento, and Livramento came out on top. Newcastle have the ball on the left-hand side, but they couldn't keep it in play. It's a throw-in to Fulham as Marco Silva, just down beneath us, has another chat with Luis Boamorte about what Fulham do next at 2-0 down and a man down.
Does he save the energy for another day and get some of his star players off the pitch, or do they just stick out there with the players that he's actually got until the end of the game, Dan? It's so difficult, isn't it? And you can see the pressure's just coming and coming from Newcastle right now. Sean Longstaff this time with an opportunity, and you're right, the ball just wouldn't come down quick enough for him. He waited, he wanted to try and get his volley away, but unfortunately for him it just wouldn't come down, and Fulham eventually clear the lines. There was a slight shout of a penalty shout. I think it was Callum Wilson, just got a little flick around the corner. I think it was Tosson who flicked the ball against his arm. It would have been a harsh one, I have to say. You could see Callum Wilson, he had his arm raised, he was appealing for it, but
just further to the Tom Lockyer news, we mentioned earlier that he had collapsed the Luton defender at Bournemouth. I'm told that the Bournemouth staff doctor has confirmed that Tom Lockyer is alert and responsive, which is heartening news.
Yeah.
And we hope he's okay. So play may well resume shortly at Vitality Stadium with a score at 1-1. Fulham coming forward 2-0 down with Anthony Robinson, their American fullback. Down goes Harry Wilson and wins a free kick. Swansea 1, Middlesbrough 2. Middlesbrough in front through Sam Silvera, and Wigan equalise at Port Vale. They were 2-0 down in League One, but Charlie Wyke, another goal for him, his 7th of the season, to equalise at Vale Park. So Fulham with a free kick here, and it's going to be Tom Kearney with that sweet left foot of his to see what he can deliver. Newcastle holding their line just inside the edge of the penalty area. Everybody back for Newcastle for this free kick. A one-man wall at the left-hand corner of the box is Almiron, who scored Newcastle's second. Referee blows his whistle. Kearney looking intently at the ball he's about to deliver into the area. Dubravka waits in the 6-yard box. Whipped in by Kearney. Dubravka goes up at the far post and claims it well. Very well indeed, Martin Dubravka. I was mentioning earlier, I saw his debut here against Manchester United when he was the Sparta Prague goalkeeper on loan here, and he played so well. I remember Ray Houghton saying to me, what's the number one at Sparta Prague like if he's this good?
Yeah, he certainly spoke very highly of Dance. I think his attitude's been very good as well. He's had to bide his time and wait for his opportunity. Did have that loan at Manchester United, didn't he? But the Sharp pulled him back as quick as they possibly could. And not a bad number two to come in, is he? I think he's kind of a little bit different to Nick Pope. He's better with his feet, I would say. Yeah, when called upon, he's certainly ready, isn't he? And full credit to him for that.
Willian is just going through some exercises down beneath us. Maybe we'll see him on for Fulham before too long. Crystal Palace have got one back at Manchester City. 2-1 the score at the Etihad. Jean-Philippe Mateta for the Eagles. Here at St James's Park, we've got 17 minutes to play. Newcastle United 2, Fulham 0. Lewis Miley, who I'm told has now gone 8th of the list of youngest Premier League goal scorers, with his goal this afternoon, his first for the black and white stripes in his 11th appearance. What a lovely story for him. Look, I'm sure he might get a television or a radio interview off the back of that. You wouldn't be surprised. Almiron with the second, and Fulham, who've been down to 10 men since Jimenez was sent off after a VAR decision in the first half. Really spirited, but ultimately couldn't keep Newcastle out for much longer. Here's Anthony Gordon for Newcastle. Harrison Reed, Bobby De Cordova-Reid and Sasa Lukic all about to come on for Fulham for a last throw of the dice from them. But here's Miley, the goal scorer, looking for Wilson at the far post with a cross, and it just evaded Callum Wilson at the far post, and Kenny Tete ended up turning it behind for a corner kick to Newcastle United. Lovely ball from the youngster Lewis Miley. That deserved somebody on the end of it. Corner's been taken quickly. Longstaff finds Guimaraes, tried to slide it down the left hand side of the box. It deflects back into his path. Looks for Miley with a pass into the area right hand side, but it's overhit. Goal kick for Fulham. That may well allow the triple change to be made, Mickey Gray, but what a lovely ball in from Lewis Miley there.
The build-up play was outstanding as well, wasn't it? A little flick round the corner to play Lewis Miley in, who has been fantastic, I have to say, since he came onto the field. Topped that off with a super goal as well, which has completely changed this game. But that ball, he just whips it into an area, hoping that Callum Wilson's got enough pace to leap to get on the end of it. Just had a little bit too much on for the centre forward. He's been a little bit hit and miss today, I have to say, Callum Wilson. He's not really been on the front foot, which is why I think we've seen a little bit of frustration from him this afternoon. But there's no doubt the quality that's been put into the area for him was absolutely outstanding from Miley on this right-hand side.
So Reid, Decordova-Reid and Lukic coming on for Fulham. Kearney, Palhinha and Iwobi are the players being taken off by Marco Silva. And Iwobi, who's put another shift in for his team, but the live wire Bobby Decordova-Reid will go into a forward position with Harry Wilson and Muniz. Harrison Reid and Lukic will sit in front of that back four for Fulham. Oxford 2, Burton 0. Ruben Rodriguez with his second of the afternoon for Oxford, and Preston 1, Watford 5. Ismail Kone for Watford, who had their first defeat in 4 against Ipswich last time out, but a great response from them. Ipswich, remember, drew the East Anglian derby live on TalkSport at lunchtime, ended 2-2 between Ipswich and Norwich. So Ipswich are not top of the Championship. Leicester still at the summit, and they go to Birmingham City on Monday night. Live commentary on TalkSport 2 of that game from St Andrews. I'll be there with Courtney Sweetman-Kirk. Our coverage starts at 7 p.m. after EFL All Access on TalkSport 2 at 6. Now Issa Diop has just almost thrown Callum Wilson to the ground down the right hand side of the box, and he still looks imploringly at the referee as just to say, I didn't do nothing, ref. But it's definitely a free kick for Newcastle United down the right hand side of the box.
Yeah, I think we can agree on this one, Dance. Yeah, quite a clever foul. He knows he's outside of the 18-yard box. He knows Callum Wilson has got the turn on him, so he's just wrapped his arms around him and pulled him to the ground. And you're right, just looks at the referee. What, who, me?
Yes. Well, you're always going to plead your innocence, I suppose, even when it's staring the referee in the face that you've practically suplexed a player in a wrestling hold. So Anthony Gordon with this free kick for Newcastle, looking for a third goal at the Gallagher end. They've got 2 in this second half. Chips it to the far post, punch clear well by Bernd Leno. Did well actually, Bernd Leno, but it's retrieved by Bruno Guimaraes, and there's a Fulham player gone down in the box. It's Rodrigo, I think, who's gone down, the substitute, and he's holding his face, but the referee has stopped play, and that's why the locals are a bit miffed. 2-0 to Newcastle, less than quarter of an hour to go.
Yeah, I think it came from that free kick, Dance, that went into the area, didn't it? And it was probably more his goalkeeper, Bernd Leno, as he's just cleared his lines there. He's made contact.
Oh, he's caught his own man.
Player. Oof, my goodness, yeah. Just see him. I think he just got one in the face. I'm not too sure it was enough for him to go to ground. As I'm watching now, he does look as if he's in a little bit of pain. I'm sure he will get back up to his feet now, but just ticking the minutes away, isn't it? I know it's going to get added on at the end of this match. 11 minutes of normal time to go, but I'm sure we're going to get a little bit added on to the end of this match here. But they just got to try and consume as much energy as they possibly can, Fulham, and go again next week. That's what it's all about for them now. They know that this game's dead and buried for them, and Newcastle are just going to play the ball around, try and add to the 2 goals that they've got already. And not being the best performance, I have to say, but the Geordie faithful will come out of this stadium happy with 3 points.
That's Mickey Gray. You can hear alongside me Ian Danton. Mickey basically here on a scouting mission for Sunderland ahead of the FA Cup tie at the Stadium of Light next month. Am I wrong? Yeah, probably, but it might be worth mentioning. Sunderland trailing at Bristol City. Derby have just taken the lead in League One against Wycombe late on Tom Barkhausen. And Ethan Chislett has a hat-trick for Port Vale against Wigan. They're 3-2 up. I'm going to be at Vale Park on Tuesday night for their League Cup tie against Middlesbrough. Reports on that. But it is Chelsea-Newcastle live on TalkSport. A foul on Emil Kraft as Bobby Decordova-Reid obstructs him as he tried to come in from the right corner flag at the Gallagher end. Free kick to Newcastle United. 80 minutes gone, 10 to play. And after a frustrating first half for the Geordie faithful, it's a much, although there's still a few annoyances for season ticket holders, it's a slightly more relaxed atmosphere around this stadium now. Free kick.
It certainly is, Dance. I mean, I think they're now more in control. Newcastle, they've got this game tied up, haven't they? And I think they're starting to enjoy themselves now. Just seeing that yellow card for Decordova-Reid there.
He's not been on the pitch 5 minutes.
Yeah,
he's got himself booked. And Luis Poamorte is asking why to the fourth official. Meanwhile, Bruno's getting the chance from the Gallagher end as he prepares this free kick that's pretty much like a corner right-hand side into the far post. Dan Burn heads it down, drops on the 6-yard line. Almiron tries to drive it through a crowd, comes out to Guimaraes, lofts it to the far post. Dan Burn at the second attempt has forced it home for 3-0. He went up at the far post as Guimaraes lofted it to the far post. The initial header was kept out, but the man born in Blythe and back in the side today has notched Newcastle's third of the afternoon to seal all 3 points after what's been a difficult couple of weeks for Eddie Howe and co, and 3 straight defeats in all competitions. They've got the points and they're starting to get players back, even if they've lost 1 or 2 this afternoon. Newcastle 3, Fulham 0.
Well, it's 3 or 4 bites at the cherry, isn't it, before the ball eventually does find its way into the back of the net from Dan Burn. And Guimaraes involved yet again. He's been outstanding today, I have to say. Great pick out with the outside of his right foot to see Dan Burn at the back stick, who does everything right, heads it down. Outstanding save from Leno, but it falls perfectly back to Dan Burn. He's just got to basically get his body in front of the ball, and it just finds its way into the back of the net on a second occasion. Well, it's been great from Newcastle in the second half. They're in cruise control now. They're enjoying the football, and I think this has given Eddie Howe a real opportunity to make a couple of changes as well. Those players who've been playing every single minute of every single week, seems like forever, doesn't it? But they're going to get the chance to make those changes now. But yeah, great performance in the second half from Newcastle. The difference for me, Dance, is the quality into the box. It wasn't there in the first half. They never really looked like scoring, but they've come out in the second half with intent, and when they have had those chances, they've been clinical.
So a triple change after the third goal as Eddie Howe decides to rest a few. Tino Livramento is the first to be withdrawn. He's becoming a fan favourite very, very quickly here. Matt Ritchie's going to come on for him. Dan Burn, who's just scored the third, that's his last contribution, his second Premier League goal of the season. But it probably would have been Eddie Howe's plan all along to give him 70-80 minutes and then let Sven Botman have a go on his return, and listen to the cheer that Sven Botman's got as he returns to Newcastle United action. And the other change, Anthony Gordon is going to come off, a good shift from him as well, and Lewis Hall is going to come on to replace him on loan from Chelsea. And Gordon's put in a good shift as well, so a triple change just to help out and keep some of those players a bit fresher. But remember, they've lost Cher to a hamstring injury. They may well have lost Joe Linton to a similar injury, maybe not for quite as long, but he had to go off as well. So it's not all been good news for Newcastle this afternoon. Plymouth 2, Rotherham 2. Tom Eaves equalises for Rotherham at Plymouth Argyle. Wrexham 2, Colchester 1. Colchester get a goal back. Stockport 7, Sutton United 0. Isaac Olafe in on the act. I think that's his 13th of the season. And Bolton 1, Bristol Rovers 2. Owen Toyle gets one back. Bournemouth against Luton has been abandoned with the score at 1-1. Remember, we mentioned earlier that Tom Lockyer, the Luton defender, collapsed in the second half. He's been pronounced as alert and responsive by the Bournemouth club doctor, but in the circumstances, the match has been abandoned at the Vitality Stadium with the score at 1-1. Some breaking news for you on TalkSport 2. Ball's on halfway with Miggy Almiron, who went to throw off Anthony Robinson. 5 minutes to play. Mickey, looking at what Newcastle have got next. We mentioned Chelsea in the week live on TalkSport on Tuesday in the Carabao Cup. Then Luton away at Kenilworth Road before Christmas. Boxing Day is Nottingham Forest at home, and then Liverpool away before the cup tie at your mob.
Yeah, so they've got winnable games. I'm sure that this club wants silverware, so it's a massive game, isn't it, against Chelsea? And I think, you know, players like Botman coming back. I know they've got the unfortunate injuries from today's game as well, which they don't really need, Newcastle, but all winnable games. You say momentum's on their side, Dance, isn't it? Looks like they're going to get back to winning ways today against Fulham.
And Isak has been kept in reserve today. He wasn't on the bench. They're just managing the groin issue that he has, Alexander Isak. So he may well feature at Stamford Bridge in the week. Crewe 2, Accrington Stanley 2. Ben Woods equalises for Stanley at the Alexander Stadium. Bruno again gets a chant of his name as he was fouled for a free kick. 4 minutes of normal time to go. Don't forget, we're straight off to Grenada for the third T20 international between England and the West Indies, straight after full time here. Ball by ball exclusive commentary, with England basically having to be perfect from this point on. 2-0 down with 3 to play in a 5-match series. And once the T20's done, we'll be off to Alexandra Palace for more live PDC darts. Chris Mason and Paul Nicholson will guide you through the action, including Simon Whitlock against the 2-time world champion Gary Anderson. Ball's back with Jamal Lascelles for Newcastle United. Spreads played wide to this near side, and Emil Kraft, who's looked neat and tidy since coming on early in the piece for the injured Fabian Schär. Miley, who scored his first Premier League goal, indeed his first goal at all for Newcastle this afternoon. Now here at the edge of the area is Longstaff, and he whistles a right-footed shot over the bar. Couldn't keep it down. He puts his hands in front of his face as if to say, oh, wasted chance. Goal kick to Fulham. 3-0 Newcastle lead.
It's a brilliant move from Newcastle. I mean, I lost count of how many touches they had before that ball actually fell to Sean Longstaff. He plays on a half turn. He has a super first touch to get the ball out of his feet, and his eyes lit up as he took that strike on. We know he can do it. Just got a little bit too much leverage on it. Went over the top of the crossbar, but they're enjoying themselves, Dance, now, aren't they, in the final few minutes of this game. Zipping the ball around, playing some nice football. And it was all made from that silly challenge from Jimenez in the first half. Game completely turned on its head.
It is currently 3-0 to Newcastle. For the latest odds, just head to William Hill, the official betting partner of TalkSport 2's Premier League coverage. Newcastle were 29-20 to score the next goal a little while ago. Fulham to score next, back at 24-5. No more goals at 17-20. That was just before Newcastle got their third. That's all thanks to William Hill. Get epic value all season with William Hill. 18+, begambleaware.org. Leyton Orient go 2-1 up very, very late on at Cheltenham Town through Ethan Galbraith. A few full-time start to come in. This game kicked off a little later in the second half because of those 8 minutes of added time at the end of the first half. It was goalless at the break, but Newcastle have scored 3 at the Gallagher end in this second half to arrest that run of 3 straight defeats. Picked up by Issa Diop, just lays it off to Sasa Lukic for Fulham. Plays it into the centre of the Newcastle half for Harrison Reed. Out on the right hand side is Tete. Plays a short 1-2 with Harry Wilson. Gives it back to the Welshman out on that right hand side. Wilson faced up by Ritchie, clips the ball infield instead, and Lukic will lift the ball into the box looking for Rodrigo, who tried to get himself in between Botman and Lascelles but couldn't get the shot away, and it just came off the bottom of his boot and behind at the Leazes end for a Newcastle goal kick. 3-0.
Yeah, just seeing the game out, aren't they? Lascelles has had a very good game at the back, I have to say. Well, the ball's been in his vicinity. He's done what defenders do, just cleared his lines, but he's read situations excellently today as well. Dan Burn, when he was playing alongside him in the middle, was very good as well. He's got himself on the score sheet. It's been some good performances, I have to say, from Newcastle. More in the second half. Guimaraes, I think, is one that stands out as well, Dan. He just dictates everything. He's better in, when you see him live rather than on TV as well, and see his movement and how clever he is.
Here he is on the ball now, Guimaraes, just inside the Fulham half. 7 minutes to be added on at the end of this second half. We had 8 added on, so an extra quarter of an hour being played. That's music to Eddie Howe's ears, I imagine.
and Marco Silva's players.
Yeah.
Who've been down to 10 men for since the 22nd minute. So it takes it out with your legs, Dance. It really does, especially when you're chasing a game like Fulham are now. See, they're just getting themselves back into positions, and full credit to them. They had a go in that first half, had some good chances, but it just ran out of steam. They really did.
One of Mickey's many old clubs, Sheffield Wednesday, looked to have won it late on against QPR at Hillsborough. Anthony Musaba in the 94th minute. Sheffield Wednesday 2, QPR 1, but Sunderland have lost, Mick, at Bristol City by a 1-0. That goal came in the first half for the Robins at Ashton Gate. Now left hand side for Newcastle, it's with Matt Ritchie, who came on as a substitute just a few minutes ago. Now Longstaff works it back to Botman, and he'll give the ball to Bruno Guimaraes, who flicks the ball to his right, and he finds Lewis Hall, clipped out to the right hand side. Nice ball for Almiron. On the overlap it's Kraft, gets to the byline and pulls it back, only headed half clear. Lewis Miley looking for a second goal in this game, tries to play a 1-2 with Bruno, but it doesn't come off for him. Comes back to Almiron, almost at the right hand corner of the penalty area. Lovely ball rolled into the box by Bruno Guimaraes, but it just couldn't get past Anthony Robinson. In steps Miley to win it back from Sasa Lukic. Great determination from the youngster. Out it goes to the Newcastle left on the far side, and Matt Ritchie took back in field for Botman. To his right is Lascelles. Emil Kraft picks it up now as they spread play Newcastle from the far left to the near side to us the right. And Kraft just takes the ball away from the slipping Bobby Dickled over Reed. 2-2 at the Etihad. Michael Elise has equalised. Manchester City 2, Crystal Palace 2.
Wow.
Elise for Palace on 95 minutes. More drop points for Manchester City in the Premier League, it seems so. Southampton 3, Blackburn 0. Sekou Mara meantime at St Mary's in the Championship. Middlesbrough have beaten Swansea 2-1 down in South Wales. And here at St James Park we've played 2.5 minutes of the minimum 7 that have been added on, with Newcastle 3-0 up and attacking down that far side of the field with Matt Ritchie. Infield to the influential Bruno Guimaraes. Floats the ball out to the inside right position for Emil Kraft. Almiron takes over. Infield it goes once again to Guimaraes, who's very strong. Oh, he rolls Lukic brilliantly, slides it into Wilson with his back to goal at the edge of the area. Wilson makes room for a shot, blocked by Diop. Good defending in the end. Comes out to Guimaraes once again. 30 yards out, options right and left. Oh, lovely ball for Wilson. Hits the post with a right-footed shot. It's only half cleared. Miley lofts it to the back post. It's brought down on the chest by Ritchie. Fires it into the chest of Leno. And Fulham get the ball half clear and they survive once again. Callum Wilson's so close to a goal and making it 4-0.
It's just not his day, Dance, is it? Callum Wilson's 2 bites at the cherry. The second one when he hits the post. But I thought his better opportunity was the one before. And he did have a little reverse pass on to Ritchie outside him on the left-hand side. But centre forwards want to keep hold of that ball. He wants to get himself on the score sheet today. And again, it just doesn't look like happening. Great pace and power on his shot to hit the post.
Crossing for the left-hand side, looking for Wilson. But it was straight into the arms of Bernd Leno. Derby County 1, Wycombe Wanderers 1. Wycombe equalise at Pride Park late on. And that's the final score as well. Luke Leahy with a late penalty in the East Midlands to earn the Chairboys a point. All 3 points staying here on Tyneside. Newcastle just knocking the ball around on the halfway line. We've played 4 minutes of the minimum 7. If you're a cricket fan, stay right here, because as soon as we're done, myself and Mickey Gray, we will be off to Grenada for the third T20 International exclusive ball-by-ball commentary of England against the West Indies, and fingers crossed England can get themselves back into that 5-match series. Southampton 4, Blackburn 0. Carlos Alcaraz. Really is feast or famine for your old club Blackburn. They either win or they get beat.
Yeah.
It's 1 draw this season they've had, something like that.
It's ridiculous, Dance. When you see them play as well, they look absolutely fantastic the way they start games, but they're just not finishing it off.
Lewis Miley finds Almiron, right hand side of the penalty area, into the far post. It's across the face of goal by Hall, and again Leno makes an important save. Cleared away. comes out to the edge of the box. Guimaraes rolls it to Almiron, right-hand corner of the area. Comes in field, gives it back to Guimaraes, who thought about a shot. Plays a lovely ball, trying to get it inside Robinson for Miley, but that was good defending in the end by the American for Fulham. Put it behind for a late corner for Newcastle United at the Gallagher. 3-0.
Here we go again. It's just an onslaught at the moment, isn't it? Constant pressure from Newcastle. They're all trying to get themselves on the score sheet. Matt Ritchie does ever so well from the cross to stretch out his left foot, and as the ball comes across the 6-yard area, Fulham are just throwing their bodies on the line, just trying to keep this score down, clearing the lines. But then it's back with Newcastle, a lot more possession, all going through Guimaraes yet again. Those little reverse passes he tries to play in Lewis Miley, inches away from coming off. He's been absolutely top class in his second half, he really has.
Free kick to Newcastle just in front of the centre circle. Manchester City 2, Crystal Palace 2 is a final score at the Etihad in the Premier League. Now here's Lewis Hall making a strong run into the box, but he ran into Tosin, who got the ball half clear, and Tete should complete the clearance. We're in the final minute of that minimum 7 added on here. Rodrigo Muniz tries to flick the ball on halfway, but he couldn't find his teammate Deckard-over-Reed, and instead Guimaraes plays a long ball downfield, and it almost broke for Wilson after Robinson and Diop got in a bit of a muddle standing next to each other, but it'll just roll through for Bernd Leno, and we're nearly out of time. Crewe 3, Accrington 3. Great game at the Alexander Stadium. Elliot Nevitt looks to have equalised for Crewe, has got him a point in the 98th minute. Lewis Hall wins the ball back for Newcastle on halfway, and Sam Barrett blows the whistle for full time, and the sound of relief around St James Park after 3 straight defeats. Newcastle get themselves a 3-point haul. They've lost more players to injury this afternoon, namely Fabian Schär at the back and Joe Linton, who both went off with hamstring problems in the first half. It was goalless at the break. Fulham had a man sent off midway through that first half as well, when Raul Jimenez had a yellow card upgraded to red by VAR for a reckless challenge on Longstaff. But ultimately Newcastle were not to be denied. They got the win in the end. The first goal came from Lewis Miley, his first Premier League goal and the 8th youngest Premier League scorer. He got them going on 57 minutes after Guimaraes had done all the hard work. Miggy Almiron made it 2-0 after Wilson went down inside the area, but the ball rolled conveniently by the Paraguayan. And then the local lad Dan Burn made sure of it, following up his header saved by Leno to make it 3-0 on 82 minutes. All smiles at St James's Park. Fulham's goal-scoring run comes to an end. They couldn't find their way past the goalkeeper Martin Dubravka. It ends up being 3 points and a bit of happiness on Tyneside, Faker others. It's finished here at St James Park. Newcastle United 3, Fulham 0.